Okay, so today's webinar is regarding Toolbox, which is a system that some of you have probably heard of. It's a completely online-based system that you can go onto and do all parts of your advice process, all parts of your back office management, and completely manage your business. So it literally does everything from the very beginning, start to finish. It's an end-to-end system for you. Everything, as I say, is online and it works on any browser. So anywhere you've got internet connection, you can get on. You can use it on tablets. You can even use it on your phone if you really want to. Obviously, the screen size is a little bit of an issue there, but you can use it on tablets and smaller devices if you wanted to. And as I say, it works on any browser. That includes your Safari, your Firefox, your Internet Explorer, Chrome, etc. It works on absolutely every single one. So we'll get started with a demo, as I say. We'll go through a bit of an overview of what Toolbox can do. I've mentioned I will keep you muted just for the duration of the session, just because we don't want any background noise or anything like that. So if you do want to ask any questions, please use the chat on the right-hand side of the screen. When I share the screen, I'll tell you how to get that chat back up so you can start asking questions. But please feel free to fire any questions over to me. And as we go through the demo, I'll try and answer them as we go along. And if I do miss anything, then I'll come back to those at the end of the session as well. So I'm just going to share the screen for you. So if you could let me know again in the chat if you can see that okay before I continue. And you should see what is the Toolbox homepage, and it's got a lot of different coloured tiles on it, and you should also be able to see my mouse moving around. So if you are struggling to get the chat back up, if you just hover over the top of your screen, there should be a little drop down come up, and there's a chat button towards the right hand side of a little speech bubble. If you press on that, the chat will then come back up on your screen so you can send in any messages that you've got. Perfect, thank you for confirming you can see that. So as I've mentioned, this is the Toolbox homepage. When you first log on, this is what you'll see. And this has got quick links to pages and documents that you might need to access quite often. And as you can see, on some of them, we have a little number in the top corner in a little circle, and the circle is colour-coded. And what that means is that there are activities within that section that need to be completed. And if it's green, then they're not yet overdue. And if it's red, then something in there is overdue. So there's an action that you need to take in that section if it goes red. And this is just one way you can manage your diary through Toolbox. So when you first log on, you may want to go into the advisor workload section, this first one, because there's 2 activities within there that you need to complete. And if we click onto that, we get a table showing what the details of that are. We're on a training system, so it hasn't accurately reflected that there were 2 actions in there. We've only got 1 pulling through, and that's simply because we are on a training system. So some of the things don't show exactly as you'd expect, just because of the system that we're on. But you can see we've got that one example on there. We've got our client, Mr. John Smith here. We can click on his name and go into his client details and find his contact information and all that sort of stuff from there. We can also, if there were more than one record on here, we could click on the headers and apply filters and sort things. Oh, I've just overheard somebody saying they can't hear anything. So bear with me just 1 second. I'm not quite sure who that was that was speaking. If you can hear me and you're having problems with the audio, send a message through on the chat. So as I was saying, this table down the bottom here will show you the details of any people that you need to get in contact with, basically, and this will be set by yourself and by the system. So it's intuitive enough to decide that you've set somebody at a certain status of your advice process, and you need to move them on to the next part of the advice process. So it will automatically figure out when you need to contact them or prompt you to put in a date that you can then contact them. So what I mean by that is on here, we've got a current stage and they're currently at the client main details stage. And over here, if we click on the actions button, we get the options to snooze and dismiss. And we have different stages. There's a full checklist of every single stage of the advice process. You can add your own stages if you do things slightly differently to what the template shows. And basically you can have as many people as you need to, so administrators, firm principals, multiple advisors working on the same case and marking off what stage of the process they've gone through. So they might go to a fact-finding stage and tick off that they've done the fact-find. They might have instruct solicitor and they'll be able to mark off that they've done that as well. So you can have multiple different stages, and then you can come into here and see what stage each of your cases are at and move them on to the next stage should you need to be able to do so. The pink section, the next section along on here, is basically a diary and task management system. So you can come into here and have a look at all of the tasks that you've got. And again, we've got a number in the top corner that says that we've got a number 3, showing that there's 3 outstanding activities in there, and at least one of them is overdue because it's gone red. So in there you can see similar format. We get the table at the bottom of the page, and we can see who the clients are. If there is any policies linked to the client, then we'd be able to see the policy number as well. So the policy is just the application number. We can click on both of these, so we can go straight into the client details, and we can go into the policy number there and just basically click into it straight away and get into that information. We've got a due by date over here, and if we click on view on any one of these, we can actually go into the detail of that task. So we can see we've moved into the tasks tab at the top of the screen, and down here on the right hand side, we've got all our headers on the left, but on the right hand side we can see we've got the subject, so contact a client regarding B and C. We've got a status, which is client contact, and we've got again a link to the client's name, so we can quickly get into that. So that's one of the benefits of using Toolbox rather than using external systems, because you can actually have quick links to pages and documents. So rather than sending an email saying, can you have a look at this client, and having to then search for the client and add an extra step to the process, the task can be sent directly through Toolbox to the person you want it to go to. It appears on their Toolbox account, and then they can literally click on one button and get into all of that client's information, start making contact or start actioning whatever the task is. So it makes things nice and quick. Another quick link on here is the sales workflow section, which is basically a folder which contains all the client's information. So on there you can see this folder is related to a mortgage. You can choose that on the drop down and change it to a different folder should you have multiple ones for each client. And again, you can click on the view button and quickly get into that workflow as well, and have a look at what documents and stuff are attached in there. You've also got a few different options. You can set who the advisor is, you can set the policy provider, you can set who it was assigned to, so you can send it to other people within your firm. So it's really, really useful if somebody is going on holiday, because a firm principal or an administrator can log on to the system and they can choose then to take that lead from that task from one person and send it to somebody else so they can pick it up in that person's absence. And it is literally a case of coming into the task and choosing the assigned to button, pressing select and finding the person who you want to send it to. And all of the data then is transferred to that other person. So literally a couple of clicks and they have all the information, and it keeps a full audit trail. You've got your due date next and a status, and then you've got a notes box down here so you can type in whatever you need to. And then at the very bottom of the screen, you've got the history, so that's where your audit trail goes. If I was to add in another one, test and save, you can see it just adds it to the bottom of the screen there for me. So we're just getting a complete audit trail of all of the contact history, basically. So that's what that pink section does on the home page. There's other reasons why things go into tasks. So AQR workload stands for Advice Quality Review, and that is basically where any of the cases that are having a compliance check done, if you opt into having compliance checks, that's where they'll go, and that's where you'll get a number in the corner to say if there's any actions that come out of that. So you'll be able to see what cases they're reviewing within there. The last one on their task alerts is a little bit of a duplication actually of this alerts one. So we've asked IT to look into removing that for us. The next green section you have is your quick quote engines. You've got ASU, B&C and Buy to Let for general insurance. If I click onto one of those just to show you how short the question sets are, you've got a very brief question set there with just to get a quick high-level overview of what a client would be paying for their B&C in this case. You've also got your ASU and your Buy to Let, as I mentioned. Estate admin is for wealth, so I won't go into that today, but if we do have any wealth advisors, then just let me know and we can go into wealth in a bit more detail another time. Information Centre is literally just a place to get copies of the fact find, the paper fact find, any forms that we might need you to be aware of, any user guides. This will be slightly different to what you see if you do go live on Toolbox, just because it will have relevant information to yourself. The news section will literally just be like information about updates on Toolbox, if there's going to be any downtime. And while I'm talking about downtime, it's worth mentioning we have very little downtime because we have backup servers and stuff for Toolbox that mean that if for whatever reason this system that we're on now goes down, it will just move over to the different server, which will mean that you can still carry on doing your business and there's nothing that will stop you going ahead and doing that. If we do need to update Toolbox, sometimes we need to sort of turn it off as such, just temporarily, just to put an update through, and that is generally done overnight as and when we can. So you'll see very little disturbance with updates and stuff like that, or any downtime just due to errors, because it would just swap to a different server. You've then got reports. So you've got two options for reporting. You've got the reports one over here on the left, and then summary business. The reports one will take you into a reports section where you can run whatever you want to. So you can go and put whatever date range you want at the top of the screen. You can choose whatever format you want. And then you get a list of reports down the left-hand side there. You've got all different headers on the top of each. And there's a long list of reports that you can literally pull off any data that you put into Toolbox. So literally anything that you enter, you can download it in some sort of format. And as you can see, there's quite a long list on there. This is one of the screens that is having a bit of a facelift because, as you can see, there's a list on there that has just grown and grown. And the reason why that is because we've constantly been asked, can we add to Toolbox? And the answer has always been yes. We've said, yes, we'll do that for you. That's not a problem. We'll create a new report. And it has been added to the bottom of this list. And it's become a very, very long-winded list now that there is a bit of duplication. So the IT team, amongst other things, are currently working on making this a little bit more user-friendly, and you will have a favourites part at the top of the screen, and you will also have a scheduler, so you can run reports overnight. So when you log on the next day or in the morning, then you can actually come on and just see that report straight away rather than having to run it each day. So just to mention as well, because Toolbox is owned and designed by us in-house, it is something that we can customise to an extent. So as I've just mentioned, we've always created extra reports and stuff like that. That, by all means, is something that we can continue doing, but we're looking sort of on a bigger scale than that. So ever since Primus and Personal Touch have merged together, we have a lot of new members coming on using the system, giving us their feedback and their ideas, which is shaping the way that Toolbox is. Great ideas, ideas to clear things up a little bit, ideas to shape the way it is in the future. So we're listening to feedback from everybody. That includes yourselves. So if you've got ideas as we go through from previous systems that you've used, let us know, because we can potentially get that into Toolbox for you, or a version of it at least. And if you've got any questions about why is something there, why can't it do that, again, let us know. We can shape it for you because it is owned and designed by us. Obviously, some things will take longer time than others. It depends on, firstly, how hard it is to action whatever it is that you've suggested, and secondly, how many people and how urgent it is that want it. But let us know. We'll always take them into account and see what we can do and give you an idea of timescales. Also, whilst I'm on this screen, you have access levels that you can change for each person that has a Toolbox account. So you can have like a firm principal access, you can have 3 different levels of admin access, you can have advisor access, and you can merge those different levels of access. So you can have an advisor who is also administrator, an advisor who's also a firm principal. You can really tailor that to whatever you want the person to see. So the logon that I'm currently on is what's classed as an advising manager. So I can see the branch tab, because that is basically where all the firm's information is held, all the commission's management is held. And then I can also see personnel, because that will be my own information. And I can also see individual client, which is where the advice process is done. So that's because I've got the advisor level access as well. So because I've got that level of access, I can see what we call the branch reports, which is basically just firm level reporting. If I didn't have that high level of access and I just had the advisor access, then I would only see advisor reports. So just reports that are specific to the advisor rather than to the whole firm. So you're making sure that they're not seeing details about commission for the entire firm. So you can choose what access levels you want people to have. And as you can see, that's a shorter list of reports there, just because they're specific to the advisor rather than to the entire firm. The next one is summary business, and on there you can see we have a criteria at the top which you can put in whatever you need to search by. We've got received payments firstly, we've then got pipeline commission, number of policies, etc. You can choose what you want to show on the criteria there, and then the results will appear at the bottom on the graphs there. They'll appear in like a pie chart or a bar chart, and the data you can sort of hover over it, and it is a little bit sort of intuitive that if you hover over it, it will tell you the exact numbers, so you don't sort of have to figure out what they are from the left hand side. And then on the bottom of the screen you've got a table which has got the breakdown of that information, so the data that's gone behind it. And anyway, you can see the Excel button over on the right hand side. You can export it to Excel and then manipulate that data however you need to. Again, that's taken me into the branch tab on there. If I was an advisor without the branch tab access, then I would literally just be taken into summary business here, and I would see the same screen. It would just be relevant to me as an advisor rather than to the firm. And where I've got report by, I can only report by advisor, provider or product type rather than branch, which is just the firm information. Next on there we have useful websites, literally just links to sourcing systems, to the FCA's website, anything that you might have like as a favourite or a bookmark. It's just within there as an easy access link. Again, most people do have them as favourites or bookmarks, but it's there if you need it. And the last one on there is just if you want to change your password or anything like that. So the next bit of navigation on the home page is across the top. We've got this green taskbar, and we've been into it just briefly. We've got the branch tab firstly, which is where all of our firm's information is held. The fact that it says branch will be renamed to say firm shortly, we've been told. And on here we've just got all of the sort of back office setup information about the firm itself. So you can see we've got down the left hand side now, we've got some more navigation, and we've got all like the sub agencies that are linked to the firm. We've got in profile, you can set up template letters. So you can have sort of IDD, general terms and conditions, etc. all set up as templates. So later on through the advice process, you can press one button and pull them straight through. You've then got other information such as authorisations, what are you authorised to sell as a firm, any introducers that you have set up, they can go into here. Introducers can have splits already set for them, so payments automatically sort of go through at the right amounts and that sort of stuff on there. If you're interested in introducers, we can have a chat about that as well. But introducers can basically have a mini access to Toolbox, and they can send in leads in Toolbox directly to you. So they can do all that sort of behind the scenes, rather than having to call you and then you input the data. They can literally send it to you via Toolbox. You can tailor your compliance summary. Compliance summary is something that's used in the advice process, and I will show you what that looks like as we go through. But you can tailor that so you can choose what documents you use as standard. Further down we have branch application details, again just contact information, and in here we have a list of who the advisors and the firm principals are, who the administrators are. And as I've mentioned, we've got the different levels of access. So just down here, these are all the different levels of access that we can give. As I've mentioned, there's 3 different levels of admin access on there. So you can really tailor down. If you want people to be able to do commission stuff, then you can have them doing that. If you want them to just be able to see all the clients, again, you can have them doing that. So you can really tailor down what you want people to see. Next, we've got fee and commission statements. So this is where any payments that you've uploaded will show as a full statement, and you just get a log of those on the system there. And basically, because you're directly authorised, you will get the option to upload statements. So when they come in from the providers or the lenders, you'll be able to just press a button on here, it will say upload statements, and it will upload it onto Toolbox for you. So as long as the statements come through in a certain format, the headers and stuff match up, it will automatically load it onto here, and then you can keep a record of it on the system. You've also got DA commission management. So from that, once you've uploaded your statement, you can then choose to split that out between your advisors. So it's not going to transfer any money for you, it is going to just create statements. So if you've got multiple advisors within your firm that you want to be paying different splits for different types of business, that's what DA commission management will do. So it will work out that you've set 30% for advisor one's commission. So it will work out that you've received a certain amount. It will take off the 30% from that, and then it will create a statement for that person, for advisor one, and it will send a statement to them saying this is how much they will receive. You can do that for all different types of business. So you could have a different split for protection to what you have for mortgages. You can really tailor that down however you want to. And this is what the commission management system does. It helps you do that and tells you what the splits will be and helps you create statements for the advisors. And it's a really quick process, actually. Once you've uploaded your statement, you can start managing that there. As I say, it doesn't transfer any money, though. The money is held with you as the firm. Like, as a firm, it goes to the firm, obviously, and then it gets split out, obviously, after that, once you've made your payments to everybody you need to. You've then got client fee management, which is if you're going to charge fees, you can set up standard services and rates. So how much are you going to charge each time you do a mortgage, and you can set up the amounts that you're going to charge in there. And then later through the process, you can then invoice it, you can receipt it. You can see on the left-hand side we've got a few different options. We can design the invoices as well so that later on they're all sort of looking the same. They've got the same information on there about how you can get how people can make payments on those fees. And then further down on the left-hand side, we've just got a few different bits on there, like compliance is sort of, if I just click on that actually, I'll just show you, it's got all of the risk assessment visits, if any are done, compliance registers, complaints, breaches, etc. All that information is visible there. You've then got your branch report section that we went into earlier. We've got branch letter maintenance, which is where you can manage your template letters. So if you wanted a letter that you generate off Toolbox to come out in a certain format, that's where you'd do it. You'd set up your template letters, and then in document settings you choose your font size, your font type, headers, footers, logos, all of that sort of stuff. You can just basically set that all up on that screen there. And then the last bit on there, you've got an address book. So if you wanted to keep all of your addresses in one place, you can do. So that's the branch tab, and personnel is very similar. So if you're an advising manager or just a manager at the firm, you'll get a search function so you can search for your advisors. If you're logged on as an advisor, it will take you straight into the advisor's information. And you can see there, we'll just go into the contact information for the advisor. And then down the left-hand side again, we've got a shorter navigation. We can see details about the advisor specifically. We can see what they're authorised to sell. We can see what their settings are for their any user details that pull through into sourcing systems, how they calculate their true cost on Mortgage Source and stuff like that. And on Mortgage Source as well, if they're going to charge any fees, you can set up standard fees and have things set up as standard templates on there, as you can see. If they've had statements sent to them, that's where their statements would appear in the Statements tab there, and they would have a list of their statements shown here. And they can also manage their own fees as well. If they're going to charge certain fees, they can set their own up. They can manage their letter generation within here as well, so they can start generating from their templates or from templates that are on the system. They can generate template letters and then edit them as they need to. So they can just press search and it will pull up all the results for that type of letter that they've got on the system. They've got a training section, so they can log any training records, one-to-ones and stuff can be tracked on there. You've got T&C reports, which will show sort of a breakdown of how the advisor's performing. If you're going to opt into having a visit from one of the ASMs, then they will use that section to go on and have a look at how the advisor is doing before they come out and do a visit, like a compliance visit. So they'll use that screen. And then the last but not least, you've got advisor reports, which is the screen that we were in earlier with the calendar at the top of the screen there, so you can run your reports. So that is it for back office bits and pieces. Then at the top of the screen, we then have corporate clients and individual clients. So that's obviously if we're dealing with corporate people, then we can go into here. If we're dealing with individuals, then we go into individual client. So today I'm going to focus on individual client just because that's probably where most people spend most of their time. And in here, this is where the advice process is. So you've got recent workflows and you've got the top 5 cases that you've recently worked on. So you can see we've got a link to the client's name there, and we've got then the workflow named on the right of that, so we can go into the workflow. And as I mentioned earlier, a workflow is just basically a folder where all of the files are held. and then you've got the type, so is it a mortgage, protection, etc. Furthest on the right, you then have the, if you hover over the blue eyes, you can see what documents are missing, what documents are attached, etc. And further down, we have the option to search. If we scroll just down to the bottom, just for now, we have the option to search for existing clients. So you can see you've got lots of different search criteria, and at the very bottom, you get the results there. So once you've found your results, over on the right-hand side, you will get a view button, and you can go into the client's information. And then finally, on this screen, if we are creating a brand new client, we just press Add New Client here. So we just go into Individual Clients, and then Add New Clients. And then there's 5 mandatory fields on here. The mandatory fields are highlighted yellow, so you can see there we can just enter at the very minimum the mandatory fields in our clients created. Obviously, the more information you put in, the more you'll get out of the system as well, and the more you'll have for your own records in the future. But you can literally create a client by entering those 5 mandatory fields and confirming it at the bottom. So the postcode is one of those things that you know when you press and you can validate the address. Just press the validate button, type in the house or flat number, and it pulls the address straight through for you. So it's automatically populating that information quickly and easily. You've then got a GDPR section, so has the client consented to being contacted in relation to this policy? How have they consented to being contacted? Is it by email? Is it by phone? And what date did they give that consent? And then you've got a contact note section, so you can put in any contact notes you want on there, such as does the client not want to be contacted at a certain time, so don't call them after 7, don't call them on weekends. Those are some examples that we just give, but you can use that for whatever you want to, and then you can put in a contact date as well there. So again, just choose it from the calendar drop down, and whatever date you choose on there will then appear on your home page in that task section that we saw at the very beginning. And it will tell us that we need to do something, and obviously if it goes overdue, it will go into the red colour on that little circle. We then have client administration. So on here, because I'm logged on as an advisor, it's automatically putting my name in the advisor field here. So as I say, we're logged on as a training account, so it's popped in the account that I'm logged on as. You can press select and change the advisor on there. So if you've got an administrator setting up your clients, they can choose whichever advisor that you want to look after this particular client. If you're an advisor yourself, you can still change that and send it to somebody else. You've also got the option to add advisors, so you can add multiple people to deal with one client so they can access all the same information, the same fact find, the same documents, etc. So again, you just literally press add advisor, it'll give you the option to select and just basically add the people that you want to see. And you can add multiple advisors, it doesn't have to just be one extra person, you could have potentially 5 people or even more if you wanted to, dealing with the one client. And then last but not least on there we have lead details. So if anybody's got any introducers, they can say that they've been referred from the introducer that's set up on Toolbox, and they just choose them from the drop down and say yes, this lead came from this person. If they want to put a reference in, they can do. You can choose all the details that, like, is it related to a mortgage, is it a hot lead, cold lead, etc. And as I mentioned earlier, introducers can have access to Toolbox so that they can actually enter these details for you. So they'd come through to a similar screen that we see now, and they basically fill all that information in. So it would automatically create that contact, that client record, so that when you come into Toolbox, it's automatically on there for you. So once you've created your client, you get a similar screen to this. You can see it's all greyed out now. I can't make any changes, and I've got all the information filled in. I can edit the page if I want to on the right-hand side there and make any changes and then just update it. And then our main navigation now is down the left-hand side of the screen. So we're currently in the main details section highlighted in green. The next step of the process is to do the ID check. So we click on the next one on the left. And then we have an electronic ID verification system. It's called EIDV for short. And on here, you literally put in the mandatory fields, as you can see, highlighted yellow. So either the driving license number or the passport number. And if you're using the passport, you need the date of expiry as well. The ID check type is just, is it face-to-face or non-face-to-face? And the CVI declaration is, does it meet or does it exceed the evidence required? Once you've put all that information in, further down you have the option here to add paper ID. And if we go even further, it gives you a snapshot of the personal details that you've just entered in the client details, just so you can compare those to the ID that you've got to make sure that they are accurate and you've not sort of mistyped anything or got a spelling mistake. And then at the very bottom, you've got the submit button. Once you submit that search, it will go off and it will check all the relevant agencies, and you'll get the results appear at the top of the screen there. It also does the FCA check for you. And at the very top, over to the right-hand side, underneath results, you get the a pass, a refer, or a fail. So on there, you'll see, has this ID matched up? Yes, it has. You'll get a pass. If it refers or fails, just follow your own compliance. If you do need any guidance on the report that comes out of that, we have what's called an MLRO, Money Laundering Reporting Officer at head office, who they're very, very familiar with these sort of reports. Obviously, they deal with them on a daily basis. So if you do need a bit of guidance on that report from the outset, let us know. We can get you in touch with them. But basically, it will have a report on there as well that will show you what parts it's failed on. So if you need to action anything from there, then it will be shown within the report. Next, we have Create View Sales, and that's where the workflows sit. So the workflows, as I said, all the way through, basically your case files, your folders with the client's documents in. So that sits within Create View Sales over here. So we are literally just creating a new sale. So we might have already done a mortgage for this client, but we're going to go on and do a protection. That is a new sale, so we're going to create a new workflow. There's some existing workflows on here at the top of the screen. You can see we've got the description underneath here. We've got lots of different descriptions, and then underneath fact find type, we can see the types of business that have previously been done for this client. At the very bottom, we have the option to then see to create a new one should we want to. So as I say, if you've done a mortgage already and you want to go on and do a protection, you just need to create a new workflow for it because it will give you a checklist. So on there you can see you've got a description, which is a free text box, and then you've got the fact find type, which is a drop down, and you can choose what type of business it is that you are selling to that client. Then you've got the advisor drop down, so you can choose the appropriate person's name from the drop down. So because I'm logged on as an advisor, it's got my name already pre-populated in there. If you're logged on as like an administrator, it will have a list of everybody within the firm to choose from. Pressing on Add will take you to a new row on here. I'm just going to go into an existing one because there's enough on there to show you. So if I click onto this top one here, this mortgage, clicking on View, it will take me into the compliance summary on the left-hand side, so it just moves me down to the next stage. And then on this screen, this is where we get our checklist of all the documents that we need for that type of business. So we've got into mortgage. So down the left here, we have all of the mortgage documents that we require in order to get a complete case file. As I've mentioned earlier, this is the screen that you can tailor. So if you always ask for an extra document, you can add an extra row on there so that you always ask for that information. Same goes if you don't ask for something every single time, then you can remove it as well. You can get amber crosses, which mean that the field may not be mandatory. So it depends on what type of business it is that you're selling, but you can mark it as not applicable using the buttons over here, and then that will tick it off as a green tick on the left-hand side there for you. Anything that's got a green tick just means that something has been attached, and you can click on the document there. It has a date stamp, time stamp, and user stamp to show that it has been attached as well, and who, by, and when. And then there's also some that are a red cross, which means that they are mandatory fields. They have to have something attached in there, and there's not currently anything in there. So to edit this screen, the first thing we want to do is scroll to the top or the bottom and press on Edit, and then that unlocks the page for us so we can start making changes. And earlier on, I showed you a place that you could upload template letters. You can then pull those through to here by pressing one button. So you can just press Use IDD letter, and it will pull through that template document straight into the compliance summary for you. You've also got Use Valid ID Check. So once you've done your ID check on the previous page, you can press that button, and again, it pulls that data straight through for you. You've then got your terms and conditions obviously on there, same process as your IDD. You can literally press the button, pull it straight through. If you do want to then move a document for whatever reason, next to the document name, you've got an actions button. You can move, copy, rename, and you can also hide these. So if you've got a lot of documents that are older documents attached, you can hide them. that is done by pressing the top button here, show deleted attachments, and then it will give you the option to actually delete. I say hide rather than delete because it doesn't actually physically remove it. It will keep it as an audit trail for you. The other option you've got on there is the add attachment button. So basically if I press add attachment, we can upload up to 10 documents at a time. We can just literally drag and drop documents in. We can press the click here button and find the document that it is we want to upload. And you can do as many documents as you want to. So like as I say, up to 10 at a time, but you can go back on and do another 10 afterwards. They just upload onto the left hand side there for me. And then from the right hand side, I then choose where I want them to go within that checklist. So the top one that I've got over here is ID. So I would like that to go into the ID section of my compliance summary. So I just want to choose ID check. Disclosure, I'd like that to go to the disclosure section. So I'm going to choose my terms and conditions. Credit report, obviously I want to go into the credit report section. So you find that from the drop down on there. There's also on there, if I just cancel out of that actually, and go back into here, at the very bottom of the screen, there is the option to add other documents and file notes. So if something doesn't fit into these places that you want to upload, you can just put it into the other section. But all of those documents will just come into the correct section that you've selected, and then if it needs to, it will mark them as a green tick so that you get a completed case file on there. So the next step would be to go in to do your fact find. So again, on the left hand side, we're just moving our way through this left hand navigation. Fact find is over there. It will prompt you if you've not pressed update like I've just done to save your changes before you continue. And then the fact find is, it basically builds itself based on the information you're putting in. So at the top of the screen we have a key, so it'll tell you what all of the little hashtags and stars mean. At the bottom of every screen on the fact find you get a soft facts notes section, so you can just type in any notes that you need to on there. And each of the screens are relatively short just because it's an online based system, so we don't want you losing your internet connection halfway through doing a full fact find and then you lose all of that data that you've put in. So they're short screens so that you're regularly pressing the save or save and next buttons on there, so you're not losing a lot of information if your internet connection went or if your laptop battery died, for example. Those are just some reasons why they're shorter screens. And then when we click into some of these pages on the left, you'll see that it expands it, but each screen is still relatively short. So it's going to ask us information about what we're discussing with our clients, what date we was having the meeting with them. One to show you how it builds itself is the objectives and aims section here. So it asks us which areas would we like to discuss with the clients. And at the moment we have mortgage and protection ticked. So over on the left hand side in this green section we have mortgage and protection showing there. And that means that we've got those question sets related to those product areas within the fact find currently. If I was to remove protection and press save, you can see it removes protection from the left hand side there. It's also left the mortgage in there because I've ticked that I'm going to discuss mortgage, and you can see you can literally tick in whichever product area it is that you're going to discuss. So if I pop protection back in and then just save that page again, it will pop protection back in on that left hand side. So I've now got a protection question set on the fact find. Next on the fact find, we've got the credit history. So it's just going through, has the client got decent credit history so that you can actually proceed. That's been recently moved to the top of the fact find because we had feedback that people were getting quite far through, adding all the personal details, and then towards the end of the personal details section it asked about credit, and they were unable to help some of their clients because they had poor credit. So basically, just to stop that sort of wasting their time, wasting your own time as well, the credit history has been placed at the very beginning, so you get those questions out of the way, just to make sure you can help the client before you continue too far through the process. And then moving into personal details, you can see it expands the personal details section. We've got like a darker green section, and it asks us all of the information related to the client. So what income have they got, what occupation, credit commitments, etc. Each one of the hashtags, if you hover over them, it tells you what sourcing system they're used for. So if you're using integrated sourcing systems, you can see which ones that information is going to pull through to. You can also see which ones are mandatory as well with the stars and stuff like that. I'm not going to go through a full fact find because we just don't have time today to go through absolutely every page. Obviously, if you want training on the full thing, we can do that by all means. But it is basically done so that you can read the information to your client. So later on through the process, obviously personal details is sort of generic, but later on through, like when we go into mortgages, it will have questions worded so that you can read them to your client. If you're entering stuff like the client has got bad credit and CCJs, then it will ask you more questions. So it will tailor down the question set depending on the information you're putting in. Same goes for mortgages. If I'm putting in that the client is doing a remortgage, it will ask remortgage related questions. This is currently set to first time buyer. But if I was to change that to remortgage, like I say, over on the left hand side over here, we'll see that change once I press the save button. And you can see we've now got remortgage questions over here on the left. So it's just depending on what information we're putting in, it's then asking us different question sets. So it's quite intuitive, making sure that it's only asking the relevant information rather than you having to put not applicable for a lot of stuff. So you've got your darker green section, which is your mortgage related questions. Then we've got solicitor and estate agent details. That's a non-mandatory field, but you can put in the information about the solicitor and estate agent, so you've got access to that quickly. Again, that was something we added in based on feedback from existing members, so that they wanted just a place to log that information. Then you've got the protection section, which obviously we've put at the very beginning. We're going to discuss protection and mortgage needs. So we've got protection questions down the left. If we'd selected other areas that we're going to discuss, we'd have those listed down the left and we'd be able to click into those as well and expand them. And then we've got addressing other needs, which is again an optional section. So just a question to ask your client to get yourself potentially extra sales. Do you have any needs that have not been reviewed that you'd like to discuss in the future? So if you're ticking no, that's absolutely fine. You can continue through the fact find and through the advice process. If you're pressing yes, then press on save. It will drop down a new section which will have all of the areas that you've not ticked at that very beginning part of the fact find. So at the beginning we selected mortgage and protection. This is absolutely everything else that we could have potentially selected, and it will ask us a very brief question set based on that subject. So I've just clicked on to accident, sickness and unemployment, and you can see a very short question set saying, do you have provisions in place, yes or no? Do you require advice, yes or no? If you're pressing on yes for the advice, it will ask you to schedule it into your calendar so that you can come back to that later on, and it will appear on your homepage to prompt you to come back to it later on. That's the same for all the different types of business that are in there. If we press on the no and save, then it just condenses that section for us. Then we've got our declaration. Our declaration is all electronic, so you can literally just go through and tick the boxes to confirm that the client understands what you've been through with them, that they've been given your business card, all fees have been explained to them, etc. So you just go through and tick those boxes. As I say, it's all online, no need for a wet signature. If you prefer to get a wet signature, that's completely your choice, and you can save that onto, either scan it onto Toolbox or save it in your own files. But on here, it's all electronic. And at the bottom of that page, you have the option to view a PDF of the fact find. So just generate over here on the right. You can send that to your client if you wanted to, or just save it into your own files. It is saved onto Toolbox, so you don't need to worry about doing that unless you want to. And then you've got submission validation. So this one is important if you're using the integrated sourcing systems. So if you're going to use things such as Mortgage Source, Solution Builder, if you do Wealth Dynamic Planner, you've got the validate option over here on the right hand side. If you press on that, it will do a check to make sure that all of the pages where it needs to be filled in to go through into sourcing, it will just make sure that they are definitely filled in. So all of these ones with the hashtags say that they're needed at a certain point, it will check if those are filled in. And if any were to be missing, they will be then flashing red on the left hand side to say that something is outstanding, and there'll be a red box around it to say that you need to complete it. So it's really sort of clear where you need to fill that information in order to continue. Obviously, if you're using external sourcing systems that aren't integrated into Toolbox, you need to fill that information in separately, so it's not the end of the world if the information's not within the fact find on Toolbox. But it is best practice, obviously, to fill the full fact find in if you've got the information. And then the next step would be to get quotation. So once you've validated your fact find and all of the information's in there, you can go on to getting your quotation. So this will take you into the integrated systems. So as I've mentioned, we have Mortgage Source, which is run by 27 Tech. That's for your mortgage sourcing. We also have Solution Builder for protection, and that's run by a company called iPipeline. So on there, as you can see, we have links to both of the sourcing systems. You just click on the button there. I'm going to go through mortgages first. So mortgages, we literally click on the Mortgage Source logo. It takes us into the sourcing system. We have our results from previous searches at the bottom, and we have our new search option at the top there. So Mortgage Source has, firstly, Mortgage Source for your standard mortgage with no capital raising. Then we have Loan Source for bridging loans and Combined Source if you're looking at potentially raising any capital as well. And that will compare a loan compared to an increased mortgage. So we're going to Mortgage Source just for today's demo, and you can see it's pulled through all of the information from the fact find. It's pre-populated those sections for me. And then if I click on the arrows, I can go through and add my criteria search. So depending on what I'm looking for, it may be a fixed 2-year term. I can amend my true cost, so I can search by exactly what true cost I want to do. So is it the initial period? Was it just that 2 years? Is it a certain number of months? Do I want to add the fees? I can see a snapshot of my fact find. I can see what my near miss configuration is. So is it a 5% buffer, 5,000 maximum loan buffer on there? And there's a preset, but you can tailor those down in your settings as we saw earlier in the previous screens. But you can just amend it on each one should you want to. And then you've got your user details, which will be pre-populated, and product listing if you're looking for something specific. So if you're looking for a certain lender, a certain product, mortgage type even, then you can search for that there. Pressing on search mortgages will return the results at the bottom of the screen. And then all of your results are here, and you get the cheapest one first. So the initial monthly payment will be the cheapest one. So on here you can see that is the lowest amount here. You can filter that if you want to and sort it a different way. Over on the right of the screen you have the total fees shown here, but if you hover over the blue eye you can see a breakdown of the fees, and you also have the option to pin things, so you can actually select multiple ones in one go. So we might want to do this NatWest one here, pin that into this comparison section. We also want to compare this nationwide one, and you can put them into a section there to compare. You can add as many as you need to, just to get those into like a separate section for you to look at with your client to make sure you're choosing the correct product for them. Anyway, you see any red writing like this, there is a key at the bottom of the screen to just show you what that key, what those little E, X and P's mean on there. And then your actions button on the right hand side, you can press on and get the details about that product or select that product for your client. So firstly, details is straight from the lender's website. It will have links to the lender's website, links to their affordability calculator, just a breakdown of all of the information related to that product. And there's lots of information on here. You can see you've got proc fee information, product conditions, cashback, what property they'll lend on, what credit they'll accept. All of that information is held within there, within that details section. And then just going back to the results, if I was to select it, then we get the option to amend our evidence of research document and our illustration. We also get quite a nice stress test if our client is sat with us. You can hover over each one of these sections and show them if rates were to rise by each of these percentages, how much would their payments increase by. So if the rates were to rise by 8% potentially, you can see that scary figure that their rates will rise up to, just to make sure obviously that they're seeing what the risk is with the mortgage as well. So again, on this page, we've got links to the lender's website and affordability calculator there. But then we can amend our evidence of research to show a different number of results should we want to. And our illustration section, we can choose our schedule type. We can add any fees. You can add standard fees earlier on. So if you want to add like standard broker fees, you can add those on at the very beginning, and they'll pull through onto here. But if you want to add extra fees, you can just press the add button on here. And you can see you could just get an extra row, and it's a case of filling in that information. So what fee is it that you're charging? What's the amount? When's it payable by? Are you adding it to the loan? Is it refundable, and when? The bottom of the screen, this section will be pre-populated for you based on what's in your branch tab, so you shouldn't find yourself needing to change this. And you can see proc fees are already being added there. At the bottom of the screen then you can go back to your results, or you could add, if you're looking to proceed, you could add this to your compliance summary, just the research. So that will save all of those documents to your compliance summary. So the documents that are at the top of the screen here, stress test, illustration and evidence of research, they'll automatically save all three of those for you. And if you want to add to compliance summary and create policy, that the system then assumes that you've gone to the lender's website and applied. So it will pull that through to the compliance summary and create a policy record for you. So just give that a second to load, and it will pull through the information into the compliance summary. It will give us a quick confirmation at the top to say that the policy has been created. And all it will do is it wants us to fill in some extra information. So if I scroll back down to the bottom, we have the option now to view policy. And I can start filling in like things such as the mortgage account number, the proc fees, just a few extra mandatories that I need to complete to say yes, that this is the first application on behalf of the client, etc. What the product type is, what the discount period end date is, all of those sort of things that you need to fill in, they'll be highlighted yellow so that you'll know that they're mandatory. But once you've got that on there, it will link up to any statements and stuff that come through. So it will reference at which advisor has that policy linked to them. Again, we've got quick links back into the pages that we previously in. So sales workflow here, we've got that Resi first time buyer. So if I click on that, it will take us back into that compliance summary section there. And in here, we've got that policy that's being created there for us. And we've got all of our documents attached. So we've got our comparative quote report, illustration, and the stress test would have pulled through as well. On there as well, you've got the date stamp, time stamp, and user stamp to show when and where and who attached it. So once you've done all of that, your policy will be created for you. The next step is to go through and do your letter generation. So you can go to Customer Suitability Report here and press on Generate. That will take you to the letter generation wizard. You can also do that from the left-hand side here, letter generation. And all you'll do is press on Start. It will find that policy that you've just created and basically ask you a question set based on the type of business that you've just done and ask you to enter the blanks. It will be all colour-coded, so you'll only need to amend certain sections, and then you can save that. It all comes off in Word, so then you can change it however you need to, add your own headers, footers, etc. if you've not set that up from the very beginning, and then save it and just upload it back into the compliance summary. So then at that point, you'll have green ticks the whole way down on the left-hand side, and you'll have a complete case file there. So that is it in a snapshot for the advice process. Obviously, there's a lot more functionality that we've not had time to go through today. You've got things such as case tracking. We didn't really go through tasks in a massive amount of detail, but you've got the policy and the task screen at the top there to track cases and to track tasks as well. You've also got the options down here for charging your fees, doing your invoicing and receipting. You can see all the policies that are linked to each client, And if you were to have a compliance check done by one of the reviewers, if you want that to be done, then they can actually send you a checklist on Toolbox. So it's all done in one place. They're not sending you separate emails to say, that, sorry, we need this document or we need further clarification. It is all done through Toolbox on the one system. So hopefully that was a good overview for you on what to expect if you're looking to move over to Toolbox. If you've got any questions, please feel free to send them through, and I'll try and answer those if I can. If not, thank you for your time today. Hopefully, as I say, you found that useful. Anybody that couldn't hear me, I've said that I'll send you the recording through straight after this session, so I'll send that over to you if you've had any problems with the audio. But if you've got any questions, send them through on the chat. I'll stay online for a couple more minutes just to answer those. Thank you for your time.